Hello, everyone, and welcome to the American Scousers morning coffee or tea with American Scouser. Another bright early in the morning over here. I have the coffee as always, and Trevor's with us. Trevor, good morning, man. How's it going?
It's going all right.
So,
After yesterday,
honestly,
it's going better than all right.
I was
I'll
gonna
go a
say,
little
like,
bit
it has to
above
be
all
better
right.
than all right. So
Yeah.
let's start
It's
with
just my
that
default
yesterday because
answer.
I didn't get your take, but let me get your kind of feedback on it. Then I figured like we'll kind of like take a couple of the headlines that we noticed this morning and kind of address those, but and then you'll look at some of the scores from yesterday, which kind of goes with the headlines, I guess. But what did you make of the game yesterday? Like, how does that game leave you feeling?
It left me feeling tense afterwards because it was one of those things where the first like half an hour and up until eventually the goal, I was like, this is what I like. This is something where everything seems to be flowing well. Everybody seems to be doing their job, and everything that we were talking about happening in terms of where people were able to like move on the pitch and get into the spaces that would just utilize them best was all happening. And it's just a time to get the when the goal came. Yeah. Uh, how
Alan is
how
really
freezing
having
is it,
way too
Alan?
much
Like
freaking fun with us.
65?
With us freezing our ass off. Alan is having way too much fun, by the way.
Was
Good
it
morning, Alan.
70 down there today?
But probably like a
Yeah.
eight. But
The
I'm curious, like it's a humid 70.
yeah. Regardless, the second half. Well, after the penalty save, I go, all right, there's West Ham's chance at a goal gone. I didn't really think that they did too much to worry Liverpool in the second half. I didn't see any endeavor from West Ham at all. But it was one of those things where, and I sent in the Discord a couple times. Mo is getting into these spots where these snapshots that he had in the past, they would always find that corner, and now they're all just going that little bit wide, and you're just going, when is that gonna just take that extra little dip in? Yeah,
It's I don't know, there were like you have to be, I guess, happy about the score. And you have to have some ugly wins along the way. And it wasn't like I don't know, we've had some games where we had a draw and you felt like if we lost, you wouldn't be so, butthurt about it because we probably didn't even need to. Or like, I
yeah.
think that was like the Fulham game, like Ando hits the post, like the bar at the last minutes, and you're like, I mean, if it went in, it would be awesome and you would take the win, but was it really deserved? I actually thought overall the win was deserved, kind of like you're
Yeah.
saying. I mean, we didn't really give them, apart from like one in the second half, like a lot of like clear cut chances. I think like maybe like two with Skamaka's shots from like a tight angle, really. You would think Allison would be able to cover that, but
The
it was
one where
wide.
Milner put it wide. Yeah,
And then, so overall, you feel like with the game, it was deserved. You could definitely tell there were tired legs out there. I mean, that's why it really dipped, I think, in the second half. I mean, you kind of saw the toll that City game took on these guys. I'd
yeah.
be actually, if City was playing, I would be interested to see how they would play, because how did they affect them, because it definitely affected us. You could see there were tired legs all over the place, and maybe like tired minds too. There were like a lot of misplaced passes and stuff like that. Couple of like things that we talked about, and I think we were talking about this in the post match yesterday. I mean, one thing I was saying was I think it really hurts us that in a game like this where we had so much of the ball, especially in the first half, we couldn't create as much because on the left hand side really you only had Costas, and you kind of missed having a guy like Diaz or somebody out wide. So that's going to be an issue. I mean, we only have a couple of weeks here, but we got to be able to kind of go about. So let's talk about this. This is one of the headlines, actually. Van Dijk appears to like stamp on the penalty spot before Jared Bowen's effort. And, that is not a stamp, my friends. I've seen people like literally like freaking almost bring out a shovel and dig a hole in there before the other guy takes the penalty kick. I mean, if it was that bad, obviously, it would be caught by the ref as well. I mean, he kind of like, like pounds it, but that's not why he missed it. I thought it was an excellent save by Allison.
I agree. And I think it's somebody just trying to like find something out of nothing. It was, I feel, a halfway decent take from Bowen, and Allison just made a good diving save, and that was that. I don't think there's much more to look into it.
To be fair, that's the only thing the commentary called right, I think, as they were like really rooting for West Ham to tie the game and, like Liverpool failing. It was almost like pathetically biased, it felt like. And I don't want to do the Homer thing. So we were talking about this on the Discord channel. I think I'm going to go, even though I have access to Peacock, I'm just going to go find an illegal stream somewhere like I used to a couple of years ago so I can listen to it. And I don't even know what the hell I'm listening to it in Romanian or something like that. At least I don't have to hear this shit commentary or understand what they're saying. They might be saying the same thing, but at least I'm not understanding it. So It works for me. In terms of performances, like, give me one that sticks out to you in a good way and one that sticks out to you, or more like one sticks to you in a bad way.
So, the one obviously is Henderson. We were talking about Thiago being the guy that would move the play forward offensively in the pre-match and yesterday morning. But no, it was Henderson that took that initiative and really got the ball forward a lot and just was able to track back appropriately. And just, I think he played really, really well. And I kind of mentioned it earlier, the one that, and I'm just hoping that one day, like I was saying, Mo just gets those shots that are just going wide. But we were hoping that it wasn't the case beforehand as well, him kind of being put out on an island. But it just kind of ended up happening by accident. There's just so many times where they were trying to like get him the ball and then like almost like give him a lane to cut in.
Yeah.
But West Ham just kind of forced him into the corner. And it was one of those things where it wasn't really his fault that he kind of played bad. They kind of just game planned around him. But it's one of those things, if you're the best player on the team, that you kind of have to get through those things.
Oh, that's interesting you said that. I didn't think it was like as bad as it was before, but I think the fact that there's nobody to stretch the fields the other way it was a lot easier for them to defend because they really crowded the middle and shifted everything towards Mo's side. And because you're right, it looked like like they were like opening up the lane. They were like cut in, curve it to the wide, like you were waiting for it to happen. And he did try, and he did do those cuts a lot more than like just being tied to the corner on the sideline there. So it was interesting to see like how they're trying to bring him into the game. But if you think about it, the goal comes like that too. It's like an island over there, and Costas happens to be by himself. Oh, we almost had Alex, and then we lost him. So hopefully we'll get him back over here. What do you make of a couple of performances that I wanted to ask about? One, Carvalho.
Yeah, I just don't think that it's going to work for him over on that side on the wing. It's something where he just gets he kind of gets lost over there. And if you're going to have a guy that's he did well enough to try to like press and things like that, but when he had the ball, I don't think he could really do anything with it, and that kind of hinders Costas's effectiveness if you can't get it up that side to a guy and then kind of have that overlap. If by the time you're going to overlap, he's already lost the ball.
He likes coming to the middle. I mean, that's obviously his, natural spot. But Alan says he's disappointed that Ali didn't have an assist last. And I know poor performance by him. Just didn't contribute anything going forward. Just stayed in goal. But I think like one of the things is he likes cutting to the middle almost a bit too much. And man, he gave me a couple of bad Coutinho vibes yesterday, where he tried to take somebody on the midfield with no support behind him, lost the ball, and then, we had a counter going against us. I was like, having like Coutinho flashbacks over here because like it was more like, okay, do something to Coutinho, and then he would lose the ball. So you either do something or he would lose the ball, and we would get scored on the counter because we didn't have Van Dijk or anybody to bail anybody out either. But let's bring this guy on over here, fresh in the morning. Alex is with us. Alex, what's happening, man?
Oh, nothing much.
So let's get your take real quick about the game yesterday. How did that game left you feeling?
I mean, we've had a couple of those wins over the past couple of years, and it just felt like a confidence booster almost. Because I think if you took that West Ham game a couple of weeks ago, we probably only escaped with a draw. And I think the City game gave them confidence. I think, defensively we were questionable. Going forward, I thought we were pretty decent, at least, especially with Darwin Nunez. I don't know what woke up in Darwin Nunez last night, but something did, and it was actually fun to watch. And like I said on our Facebook page for the Des Moines group, I actually think taking him off kind of left Salah isolated towards the end of the game, because I think with him up there, he was kind of getting Salah into the game, but as soon as he went off, Salah was basically just isolated for the remainder of the game, and it was pretty easy for West Ham to defend that, and they had a hard time defending Nunez. I don't know if you guys were watching last night, but they could not stick with him. He's very strong. He's fast. And man, if that second goal went in, we would have. I think it would have been more of a relaxing win than a nail biting win last night. I think some would say that we probably escaped with the win. I think we have to also recognize that Fabianski had a really good night last night. He made some really good saves that probably made the score line a little bit more flattering to West Ham, because I mean, I don't know, the only chance I could think of last night was that Italian striker for West Ham, and he flashed it wide. Oh no, he didn't flash it wide. Milner blocked it, right? Yeah.
Was that scam? I know he had one shot where he was going down the side in the counter where they broke through the press after a corner kick or something like that. Antonio gets the ball, gives it to Scamacca, who kind of like he's wide angled and he just shoots it wide. The other one in front of goal where Trent is lost defensively, Gomez is afraid to give a second penalty, so he's like, kind of like literally just like waits for the dude, and then Milner, who I thought was brilliant after he came back on, kind of like saves the day over there. Otherwise, that's more than likely going in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it almost seems like he wants the pairing of Konate and Van Dijk back there, as like our two center backs. And Joe Gomez, I think he's playing a little bit too much in his head, because if you remember a couple years ago, was that 2019 when we had that really solid defense with him and Van Dijk back there, and they looked really good. And I think the bad performances are starting to like get to his head a little bit, and he's afraid if he makes a mistake like he did with that penalty, it's just all gonna unravel for Joe Gomez. And it just seems like he's just at that delicate stage. Maybe he needs somebody like a Robertson or a Milner or Van Dijk just to put their arm around him and say, hey, we still got you. We still got you. Just keep playing. Just keep doing what you're doing. Because I don't really see that right now with Joe Gomez. I don't see anybody kind of like putting their arm around him and tell him, hey, you got this type of stuff. It's kind of just falling to the wayside. Like, hey, you're supposed to do your job. So maybe he needs that little bit more of the a senior player coming up to him and saying, hey, we still have you if you make a mistake.
Yeah, I think that's unfair on Gomez. He gets too much of flack where, bear in mind, he's plays on the side that we don't really have a defensive right back. I think that's why he gets too much shit. He was probably arguably the man of the match against City. I mean, I would probably put him man of the match against City. And I think he was. I still bitter about the whole Napoli game. But my thing is with Gomez, I think his only weakness is, well, not only weakness, but his main weakness is physically, right? Like size wise. That's why they put Antonio on him. And I think that's why the penalty happens. He almost tries to be over physical. And that's when he gets into trouble like that. Because if he's out of position, he makes up for it with his speed. But I think he tries to be over physical sometimes. That gets him in trouble and puts him out of spot.
Yeah, that's where I go with I'm a defender of Gomez, but sometimes I think he just, like you said, I think he overthinks it, or as I say, he just gets in his head too quickly, and I think that's what ends up happening to him. But I still think he's a great defender. I mean, I still think he tackles well, and he's got a good presence and everything. I just think he overthinks it just a little bit too much. Might be the weakness in his game.
I think because we're kind of, what do you think, Trevor? I mean, I almost think like sometimes we're asking him to defend for two people, and like almost, I think we were talking about this yesterday. Like we're almost like expecting that person to cover for Trent at the same time, and it's always been like that. And I don't know if that's fair to I'm speaking as a defender. I just feel like that's not fair on a freaking defender to, expect him to do that, and he almost has to do 1.5 players' job over there.
Yeah, and that's always going to be difficult when you have Trent on that side, because it is kind of double duty where you need to have your responsibilities, but you always kind of have to have that looking right type of deal, and just making sure that either one of the people from the midfield is coming back to kind of fill that spot, or you just are aware of a ball coming in and try to get yourself in position a little bit earlier. And I think that was what ended up being to the penalty. He didn't make that recognition early enough, and then got over there knowing he's not going to really body the guy off the ball. He went in there and kind of went with the little high knee, and then it didn't work. And
it was like he's not going anywhere. I don't even know why he's there all the way. And
but that's panic right there. You go over there and you see the guy, and you know you're out of position, and then you just have to kind of like scramble over and try to do what you think is right in the moment. And he just got everything wrong with it. And it's going to happen sometimes, especially when you have to come cross field like that. I don't think it was in a dangerous spot where there was going to be a shot on goal from that particular moment, but it could have been a ball in, and then he has to scramble back and everything, and it would have just been a mess. So I'm not the biggest Gomez defender in most cases, but those ones from yesterday were ones where you can kind of see why he was doing what he was doing. They didn't kind of just come like a rush of blood to the head, and it was just an idiotic mistake. You could see kind of everything developing, that he was doing something that he thought was right. He just did it poorly. And that's at least making the decision to go do something correct and doing it poorly is better than doing something wrong and doing it poorly.
doing it well.
Yeah.
I think one thing Mecca was talking about, and this kind of goes like a little bit to what Alex is saying in terms of maybe like confidence, is he's not a guy. I mean, we were mainly talking about Trent and how, Konate is probably more suitable because he's more of a leader where he puts people in places and tells people where to go. Kind of like Van Dijk does with Robertson. Van Dijk is in Robertson's ear like all freaking game. And as a center back, you kind of have to kind of run the line for one in the back. And then you got to tell the guy, especially on your side, what the heck to do, push up, push back, whatever. Gomez is more, and I think this goes back to because he's been criticized so much. He's more worried about, I got to do my shit right. I'm worried about myself over here. So you figure out where the hell you're going to be and do that. That's why, I saw Henderson a lot of times telling Trent to push forward, slide back and stuff like that, and doing what probably normally would come from the center back in terms of positioning. So Mecca was talking about that yesterday, and I think that's a valid point. But I think that's mainly, again, I don't know if that's fair to criticize one of the center backs because they're not like managing the right back at the same time. I think, that was like a really effective lineup, like the one you're talking about, Alex, where, Gomez was the center back and it worked like a charm. Obviously, Gomez has the speed to be able to play that high line a lot more comfortably than, for example, Matip. Konate has that speed too. But I think at the time, Handel was covering that right side so well that we did not notice, maybe some of, because I don't think Trent was ever this bad defensively. I feel like if anybody has like a thing going on his head, it's probably Trent defensively, like getting caught ball watching and just not checking over the shoulder, just like basics not being done. And that's kind of concerning. So here's another thing that's concerning. Let's go back to some of the scores from yesterday. Not a lot of goals yesterday. I think, Alex, you were mentioning it on Discord yesterday. There was like nothing yesterday.
There was only 3 goals, and we were like 60 minutes into most of the games. I was like, man, this is pretty boring today, I guess.
Brentford's Chelsea. I mean, I think usually Brentford's a tough place to play because they can get some goals in, but they get a draw. Newcastle beats Everton just 1-0, though. I actually thought, I think Everton has become very good defensively. I don't know if anybody is going to get like 3-4-5 on Everton, but their issues are always going forward. So they might be losing a lot of games and they're going down. So Fat Frank might be getting in trouble again soon. Let's hope. Southampton wins away at Bournemouth, which I thought that was an interesting score. And obviously the big game yesterday was United-Tottenham. United did outplay Tottenham. You look at the numbers, it's not even close. But obviously they get the first goal off a deflection, and obviously the game towards the end, it was more like a United kind of game where they could counter at will, and they have the squad for that. But the biggest storyline that came out of that game, instead of United beating Tottenham, was, there you go, his favorite guy. We know Trevor loves a Ronaldo conversation. So Ronaldo says, you know what? Fuck this. I'm out of here around like 90th minutes. It looks like I'm not going in. So I'm going to be bailing over here. What do you make of this one? And on the right hand side, you see like he's talking about the team performance. And, Ten Hag says again that this is not acceptable. It's unacceptable for him to blah, blah, blah. But this is not the first time he did it. And really nothing happened last time.
Yeah, I think it's very much lip service of just you see this thing happen and you go, it will be dealt with. Okay, it's kind of a believe it when I see it type of deal. And it stinks because this, in terms of looking at as you would say, a team performance from United, it was really good across the board from them. And I'm kind of upset that they're kind of finding their form again. But nevertheless, it's one of those things where I guess he's just pouty that they played so well without him, so he had to go make it about himself, and it's just shitty. It's the most easy way to say it is it's just shitty. And like I was telling you before we got going, after the Liverpool game, I went to a brewery down the street that had this on, and they had some United fans in there, and their whole reaction to him when they were like showing him going down the tunnel was like they're just numb to him at this point. They don't. There's no joy in anything that he does anymore. It's just pure apathy. They don't care, and if the people that are passionate about Manchester United don't care anymore, I should care even less.
Yeah, I mean, he almost has worn his welcome. I mean, he's just, I don't know. They have to be numb, Alex, because it's the same thing over and over and over again. I mean, this has to be like, when we go through these morning headlines, and obviously this was like a big talking point. So I figured I was like, because we could probably use a Ronaldo headline every single morning if you wanted to with Trevor over here when we do these morning shows. And we go out of our way and try not to. But this was a huge talking point yesterday, despite like that headline on the left-hand side says, more than the game itself and, how really they did outplay him. I was thinking I did not expect Tottenham to be this outplayed by United, to be honest. But the talking point is this guy just not being happy. I mean, what are they going to tell him? What can they possibly tell him that's going to change that? Or what can they possibly do to him that he's going to change his behavior? He's already benched.
I just don't think, maybe tell him to go on a holiday, but he won't do that. So I don't think there's a lot you can do with him. I think, like Trevor said, the fans are done with him at this point. I think teammates are done with him at this point. Certainly the manager's done with him at this point. I think it's kind of one of those things where they just have to run his contract down until the end of the year and just tell him to go somewhere else. There's not a whole lot else they can do because he's going to make it about him. And really, yesterday that game was about two people that, you know, is all about them, because you got Conte on the other side and you got Ronaldo. Conte is blaming it on the team, and he doesn't believe the team can beat the top European sides, which is funny because it's his tactics, but it's the team, not his fault. And then you got Ronaldo, after a great win that they just displayed last night. He decides to make it all about himself by going down the tunnel, and it was kind of sad, especially for both teams. Especially if you're, you know, a Manchester United fan. You know, you just beat Tottenham, and now everybody's only talking about Ronaldo and not about the win. So, like I said, the last couple of weeks, I said the best scenario that they can do is re-sign him to another contract and keep him there for so, that probably won't happen, but I would like to see it.
Yeah, that would be immense entertainment. I would just like, and I know there's a lot of, and I think it's hard to kind of like separate the past from the present when you have somebody like that that's been so much to the club. But there's a lot of fans that, if I don't know, Fred did this, or I don't know, even Fernandez did this, they were like, you know what, get rid of this guy. Nobody's bigger than the club and stuff like that. Yeah. When it's Ronaldo, it's almost like part of it is just being too tired to fight that. And just like you're saying, Trevor, maybe it is just being numb. They're like, it's Ronaldo, whatever. Yeah. You know, it's just like,
just don't care anymore.
Yeah, exactly. They're like, whatever. Conte says they struggle in games at a high level. And he was kind of almost not flat out saying it, but saying like they didn't have the horses to run the race kind of a deal. I mean, but that's partially due to injuries, and they did a lot of moves in the offseason. This is not a team that was kind of quiet. What do you think Tottenham needs, Trevor, to be that team that we talk with? I mean, like to be a City, to be a Liverpool, you know, like to be a squad that's, you feel like, you know, one of the best in Europe.
I think they got to get healthy more than anything, if that's going to be the thing, because right now, what they are on that left side, at least, is just beat up. Like, yeah, you think we're dealing with injuries. They got a lot of guys out that could really help them, but that just comes with any season. If you lose the wrong guys at the wrong time, it can throw everything up. But it sounds like a different change of Conte's tune after, and not putting Everton and Man United on the same level, but he was just going, oh my God, look at how great my setup is, how I'm taking these guys, these that shouldn't be here, and now I'm just making them the best that they can be. And then they lose, and all of a sudden, see, I told you these guys were crap, and they didn't listen to me today. And now look at this. I can't beat anybody. But now in like 2 months they'll go beat City and go, you know what? I love these players. They are the best. Look at what I've done for them. I've taken them and raised them up. And then they'll go lose to Aston Villa and be like, I can't deal with these guys. They're the worst. I need $100 million worth of players right now. And if not, I'm going to take my ball and go home because I'm a crybaby.
One last thing to talk about is one last game from yesterday to talk about is like that the Brentford Chelsea game. Should probably touch up on that too, because I feel like it's the kind of thing that, I mean, you look at I'll show you guys the headline over here. It says Blues remain unbeaten under Graham Potter after Derby stalemate. But that's written by a Chelsea fan who's looking at the positive. It almost feels like, right? They're like, we're still unbeaten, But at the same time, you got to figure it's the same situation there. Conte is out now for 4 months. I still feel, even though he's not the old Conte, he's still the best player they have for midfield. Actually, one of the best midfielders the world has in midfield. So, Alex, what do you think? I mean, obviously, for them to be able to keep up with the Cities and the Arsenals, these are games you got to win. These are not, we're not talking about a decade ago where you can kind of take joy or, take pride or, take the positive saying like, we're still unbeaten though in an away game, a draw. Those days are kind of past us. In the past, you could get like a draw away and be like, you know what, that's a good result. Now you almost have to win all these other games for teams that are sixth and under, and then hope to do well against the other ones, and then maybe you get like another one over there. Liverpool goals. He's back with us. Good morning, sir. How is it going over there? I'm hoping he probably has a lot better weather than us too, by the way, in the Mediterranean over there, unless he went back to Iceland over there. But Alex, what do you think about like Chelsea and what they have to do to kind of fix that? Or what does Graham Potter have to do?
Well, my season prediction was that Chelsea wasn't going to finish in any European spots.
Really?
Yeah. Well, you have to look at all the players that came in. How do you make that fit? It's like the same thing with what Forest is going through right now. How do you get all these players and make it work? And then they had a firing mid-season, and now they got a new manager in. I think this was definitely going to be a rebuild season for Chelsea. And, they have all those issues like Zakaria. He's not playing any minutes. I don't even know why they brought him in. But I think the biggest thing is Graham Potter is going to need to find what works. And right now he's still struggling to find what works, because he went from a Brighton team where, these players are trying to get to those big clubs and trying to get the big move and try to better themselves. So they're going to be more inclined to listen to him as compared to going to Chelsea, where you're going to be playing, where you're going to have stars around you. And I think that can be very difficult. And that was one of the talking points people had when Graham Potter was going to Chelsea. Couldn't he control the big players? And I don't think he has that quite yet. So you're going to be seeing a lot of players not sure what to do. You're going to be seeing a lot of lackluster performances. And I still think they're going to finish out of the European spots. I think it's going to be a real struggle for them. They've had a good couple games here and there, but they've had a lot of games like Brentford. And I think if you play like that for the entirety of the season, it's gonna be a rough season for you. So it's gonna, like I said earlier, it's gonna take time for Graham Potter to figure out what his starting 11 is. And then he's going to have to go from there, because really because the owner, it just really seemed like he was buying just about anybody. And I don't know if you guys felt the same way, but when they were buying people, there was a lot of those signings. I'm like, why didn't they buy these players? Like, why didn't they go out for a Cucurella? Why didn't they go out for Aubameyang? Why didn't they? I mean, it was just weird. I mean, the only ones that made sense were the Fofana and Koulibaly, and that was because they needed center backs. But it's been a lot of weird buys for them, and it just doesn't seem to be gelling right now. And with all these fixtures happening right now, they don't have time to work on that. They have to figure it out.
And I think that's the biggest issue. I mean, you got to give Potter some time to kind of bring his own guys probably, or keep his own guys and add what he wants in terms of pieces. And I mean, Tuchel did go around like, you got like $1,000 shopping spree and then get all you can, and then just throwing a bunch of shit in the cart and like leaving, it felt like. And yeah, it was more like, hey, we can get him, let's get him, we'll figure it out. It's almost like they were like, let's just buy it, and then we'll figure out what we're going to do with him. And I think Potter is kind of like picking up the pieces, but I'm a lot more bullish on him. I feel like they will make a run for the top four. I think they have a lot more potential to do better consistently than, for example, like a United. What do you think, Trevor? I mean, I see them as finishing like probably third or fourth personally right now.
Yeah, I think the third to the fifth spot is kind of be like a bit of a carousel this year. You're going to see probably 8 teams potentially go through those spots at one time or another. I think Chelsea will end up in the top 4, but there's a lot of work to do, and when you lose a guy like Conte that does what we want Gomez to do, the work of 2, maybe 3 players. It's something where you just kind of have to piecemeal it until everything's back to where you need it to be.
Yeah, I really like Potter and what he did at Brighton, but like Alex is saying, the challenge is, can you do it with players who probably have more of an ego? And not to mention, you have a deeper squad of top talents where you got to be able to rotate and keep everybody happy and all that kind of good stuff too. But gentlemen, that's it for today. We'll be back tomorrow with Trevor first thing in the morning tomorrow. But even before that, the boys are here live tonight at 8 o'clock Central, 7 Eastern, no, 8 Eastern, 7 Central. You know how that goes. So Mecca, Jamie, and David will be on tonight. I'm sure they'll be dissecting the hell out of the game as well and provide some laughs. Wherever there's Mecca, there's always going to be laughs. So thanks a lot, gentlemen. Thanks to all those listening and joining in today. We'll see you guys tomorrow morning. Take care.